In today's video, it's official. The city of Chicago just sent a crystal clear message to their mayor, Brandon Johnson. And it said, you no longer have free reign to run the city into the ground. No. And so we got to continue the coverage of Brandon Johnson, the progressive Democrat mayor of Chicago, and how he is now the latest real world example of why Democrat policies on endless spending and nonstop taxation don't work and eventually get rejected, even by their own side, as we see in this case. The idea that you can spend more money, keep raising taxes, and somehow never hit a breaking point is ridiculous. And Chicago just proved that very wrong. And so while Johnson, this entire time, was busy trying to spin a narrative that nobody was believing that somehow Chicago was the model city and a trendsetter for major cities to follow, his own city council wasn't buying it. They don't believe his approach, and they didn't trust his ideas. And so they weren't willing to sign off on policies that will only run the city further into financial and operational chaos. And so they came up with their own plan. And that matters because when even a Democrat, remember, this is Chicago we're talking about here, a Democrat-controlled city pushes back on progressive mayors, it tells you something is fundamentally broken. And so when you kind of step back for a second beyond Chicago, because we see what's getting ready to happen in New York with Mom Donnie, this is what it looks like when voters put progressive, even socialist-leaning leaders into power. Big promises, grand rhetoric, endless spending plans, and eventually, a reality shows up. As always, guys, show your support for the channel. Best way you can do that, let me know, is by smashing that thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, and share this video. That way more people see what's really going on.
I'm going to name check a publication right now. When was the last time the Washington Post opined on a city's budget? I mean, that should be a signal to not just the city of Chicago, but the country. There is a deliberate, concerted effort to stop a progressive working class movement to ensure that we have the balance of powers in this country where working people's interests are prioritized over the few. I'll quote it one more time. You can have a democracy or you can have wealth concentrated in the hands of the few, but you cannot have both. This budget is not just about securing and protecting working people. This is about our democracy right now. You have a president that has... You have a president that has declared war on poor people in this country while at the same time setting up war in Venezuela. It's not a coincidence that where natural resources exist and where there's a power movement of working people, that becomes a threat to the oligarchy. Well, listen, the threat to the oligarch did not go away because we did not secure the corporate head tax. Let me make this point absolutely clear. Don't think that because it's not in this budget that we're not going to fight for it for budgets to come.
So there you just heard Brandon Johnson conceding to the reality and the fact that he has to go along with and cannot veto the city council of Chicago's alternate budget that he was not a part of, while at the same time letting everyone know he's still going to fight the good fight to go and get that corporate head tax somehow in the future. Even though he can't tell you when asked about where does that actually work and it's done wonders for a city, he can't tell you a straight answer.
All right, so if the head tax is such a great idea, where is it working now? Because there are, what cities, who you turn to, where are you looking at and saying, wow, wish we were doing what they're doing, because I can't find one.
Well, look, if you're asking me if I believe that there is a model that's better than the city of Chicago right now, I'm gonna tell you there isn't. We are setting the trend.
Yeah. And so we've been following this story for some time now. And so we know that despite Brandon Johnson constantly selling this idea that he's for the people in Chicago, he tried to raise property taxes on those very people as soon as he was elected into office. Go figure. Now with this budget, he apparently thought, why not go after the rich and businesses, the very people who stimulate economic growth in the city, by pushing that corporate head tax that he's so in love with, Even though he can't point to anywhere, it actually works well. But no worries, according to him, despite Chicago being a city with businesses fleeing, residents paying record high property taxes, and neighborhoods riddled in crime, right? Somehow they're also the trendsetters that other major cities will follow. Yeah. It would be hilarious if it weren't so serious. And honestly, it's sad that the people of Chicago fell for it, whatever act he was pulling and put him in power. At least for now, though, it looks like Johnson will have to simmer down a bit because the city council rejected his budget proposal and came up with their own, forcing him to go along with it now. And while he neither is signing nor vetoing the budget, no matter how much he tries to spin this whole thing as a win, it's not. But he still wants you to believe that it is.
With 8 days to spare, Chicago's mayor signs off on a new budget plan. Political reporter Paris Schutz is live with reaction. All right, give it to us, Paris. What happened?
Natalie, we're still trying to unpack that. As you can see, the mayor is still addressing the media with some supporters behind us right now outside of his office. So we were waiting on whether he would sign or veto the budget, but actually he did neither. He announced that he is just going to sort of let it go, meaning it will go into effect, so he's neither signing it nor vetoing it, but it does signal an end to this process. He's also signing a couple of executive orders along with it. Take a look.
So today I want to announce that I will not veto the budget approved by the Chicago City Council on Saturday, December 20th, 2025. I will not add my signature affirming the budget as presented.
So almost a campaign-style speech here. The mayor's flanked by supporters from various public employee unions, like the president of the CTU, Stacey Davis Gates, declaring victory for working people. The reason the mayor's not signing this budget is because of the debt collection part. He doesn't like the increased focus on collecting debt from Chicagoans that might owe for various reasons.
I want you to think about that for a moment. He's fine with taxing businesses that actually help the city grow, taxing them more. Businesses that attract more people, create more opportunity, and generate more revenue. But he doesn't want to hold people accountable who have debt that could actually help pay down the deficit. But it starts to make sense when you understand that he himself is one of those people who doesn't pay what he owes. Take a listen.
It's crazy to think you could run for mayor of a city and not pay your bills to said city. But I was surprised to learn that's exactly what happened with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. From 2023, days before the election.
Here's what he owes: $3,357.04 in unpaid charges and almost 8 months of not paying the city. He finally did pay on February 13th, 2023, but only $91.08. According to Capitol Facts, he has a history of not paying his city bills. Since 2010, he racked up more than $6,601 in fines and penalties. On top of that, he still owes $1,044.58 for unpaid traffic tickets dating back to 2014 and 2015. We asked Johnson how he's responding.
We're on a payment plan, like a lot of families in the city of Chicago.
And to that person who might say, hey, if you haven't paid this bill, how can you oversee such a city like Chicago when it comes to billions and millions of dollars?
I've managed multi-billion-dollar budgets as a Cook County Commissioner. We pay our car note, we pay our mortgage, we pay for school supplies, and we're on a payment plan.
Well, at least he's on a payment plan. But that right there tells you a lot, because there's a reason Chicago and so many progressive liberal cities end up being run into the ground. They're reckless with spending. They don't believe in cutting back, and they want the freedom to fund whatever new program they dream up using someone else's money. In Chicago, I reported on, talked about before, they already took a credit rating downgrade, and they're facing another one if things don't turn around. And so also, let's make this clear. these are Democrats on the city council who put this budget together. It still relies heavily on tax increases, just not that crazy corporate head tax Johnson was pushing. And so this isn't some sudden shift of fiscal responsibility. At a time when the city should be looking for real ways to cut spending, they're not. They simply weren't crazy enough to believe that taxing businesses that were still willing to stay in Chicago more money just for having employees was a good idea.
So Jesse Fuentes, you like calling Black Americans the N-word on the 5th floor, and nobody is checking that, right? You thought we wasn't gonna find out about that, Jesse? Yeah, yup, multiple times. Okay. But so we want to talk about this budget, this alternate budget. This alternate budget is still no good for the tax-paying citizens. When I look in this budget, all it's doing is slow killing us. Okay, nickel and diming us with taxes. This is what I found in this alternate budget. When it comes down to business licenses, we are going to be paying, instead of $250, we'll be paying, what you say, $500. And if you all who have driveways, houses, that's going to be going up. They're going to charge you more for your driveways. They're 15-cent bag tax, things like streaming tax, all these taxes, you got to look into this alternate budget. It's going to be taxing us. But they're not addressing these raises that his administration is getting, which is the biggest one, the $58,000 raise that's going to Michael McMurray, the Commissioner of Aviation. Do you all want to address that? You all want to address the $3,000 to $4,000 that these aldermen will be getting? You all, except two, you all will not address that $220 million that we found for under the special event, that line that somehow made it to 2026 that says new arrivals. We know you all still paying for these illegal aliens, but yet and still, when we go to Cook County, they say it's your fault. Yet Tony Prettwinkle, she's able, $1 million Tony Prettwinkle, while our taxes is going up, she was able to right now buy $1 million home. Yeah, so now, but you all failed to address what's really killing us, property taxes. I haven't heard not one of you all mention that in here, but you want to talk about everything else except for the property taxes. This is, Anthony Beale said last year when you all were spending that money on illegal aliens and voting for illegal aliens, he said, you all know that they're going to pay for it. It's going to show up in those property taxes. And you all act like we didn't hear that. We're going to bring that back to everybody's remembrance because we know it's a reflection of what you all paid for illegal aliens.
And yeah, so as much as this is about them not allowing Brandon Johnson to have free reign and ruin the city with his terrible agenda, they've just slowed the train down. I wouldn't say they stopped it completely.
So one of his executive orders was to prohibit any debt collection of medical debt. So that's if you used a city ambulance or any of the city emergency services and you're in debt now. He is saying with this executive order that they will not go after you with collectors for that debt. But there are other debts that will be collected as part of this alternative budget. He's also signing an executive order that would limit police overtime. It would make the police have to go through the mayor's management and budget office to get approval for overtime, hoping to sort of tamp down some of those runaway police overtime costs. Perhaps that's an area of the budget that can be saved. Beyond that, he says that he and his supporters did get the majority of what they wanted in this budget, including a cloud computing tax and some other business taxes, but there's also a plastic bag fee and the legalization of video gambling terminals. So a mixed message here. He's declaring victory in getting the things that he wanted, but then ultimately not signing this budget or vetoing it because he's opposed to that debt collection part. But saying he didn't want to veto it outright because he didn't want Chicagoans to have the uncertainty of going into the new year without a budget. So he chose the third way, not signing nor vetoing, but the process comes to a close. That alternative budget does get passed, and we'll have more to unpack throughout the afternoon and on the Chicago Report tonight as the mayor, as you can see, wrapping up his remarks here outside of his office. Natalie, we toss it back to you.
Before we let you go, Paris, I'm glad that he's wrapping up. I didn't want to pull you away from hearing what he had to say, because I know that that's critical for what you do. What will people have to pay in addition to what they're already paying? I think that's the bottom line for Chicagoans. How much more am I paying, and in what way, and when? When does this go into effect?
Well, this is going to go into effect in the new year, and Chicagoans, so property taxes are not going to go up except for the other bodies that tax. So CPS, the portion of the property tax, that will go up. But the city is not hiking property taxes in its portion, so they're not going to pay more. They're going to pay a higher plastic bag tax. They're going to pay a cloud computing tax. If you're a business owner and you lease property for your business, you're going to have to pay a higher tax on that. But let's listen to some more of the mayor's remarks in terms of how he was sort of trying to take a victory lap, but still saying, I don't like most of the budget.
We did protect youth employment, even though they tried to take 5,000 positions away. We did protect the largest TIF surplus in the history of Chicago, even though they tried to take it away. We did stop them from raising garbage fees, even though they tried to double them. The last I checked, my clear lines were, do not raise the garbage fees, do not collect grocery taxes, and do not raise property taxes, and invest in young people, invest in affordable housing, and invest in mental health. Those are all wins, and you can still call out the wins while also calling out the most egregious aspect of what these individuals put forward.
Hard choices have to be made when you're running a major city like Chicago, especially. And it seems like the people who are running, the people who were elected in those positions to govern and run the city, don't want to make those hard decisions. We have to begin to cut back, where you have to actually go through some hard times and make some tough decisions where it may be painful in the short term, but it works out for you in the long run. But it seems like the Democrat leadership there only is concerned about short term, and they'll figure out, hey, who can we tax more when the time comes in the future? And so I'm certain they'll be here again next year trying to figure out who's up next that we could tax. Who else, how else can we increase spending in the city and further destroy a great city like Chicago? That could be great. Chicago can return and be a great city again, but it's going to take the right leadership. But let me know your thoughts. As always, smash that thumbs up. That lets me know you like the video. Subscribe and share this video. That way more people see what's really going on. Until next time.